Today is Reish Chodesh Nesiv in the Tashin Samech Tes. We are on Amid Mem of Hemshech Samech Tes from the Rebbe Rashab.
Right, so we saw the in the Shechina Loyal Alamaila Shechina Loyal Alamata Measor Tfachim. We saw the Gemara answered that Omdu Raglo Harazaisim Yosid Lova Yadas Lamaila Measor Tfachim. And we said that was the Kavana Lamaila Measor Sphiri, the Essa Sphiri Soratzila. And then we began with the beer on the Inian of Shemen. And we brought down that Shemen was Inian from Chochma. Now that is not Daf Mem Beis Omid Beis, nor is it Daf Pei Hey Omid Beis. It's Daf Pei Hey. It's a Mishnah and a Gemara Masechta Manoches, but it's not Daf Mem Beis. And the interesting thing is, in the Mafteches, they just copied what they saw here. I saw it was written in Menachas Daf Mem Beis. That's what they copied over in the Mafteches. There's a mistake there. I don't know where it eventuated, but that's it's a sugya, it's a Mishnah in Masechta Manoches, and it talks about the type of shemen which is kosher to bring for Manoches. And it brings out that the Mochim Takua, there was a Mochim in Eretz Yisrael, was in the Chelik of Shevet Moshe. It was called Takua. And it's written at the Inif and Takua, the Mishnah says that it was the Alpha L'Shemen, not Alfei, but Alpha with the Aleph. The Takua was Alpha, that's the Lashon of the Mishnah. That it was Alpha L'Shemen. So Alpha is for the way of saying Aleph. When you say Alpha Besa, you say Aleph Beta, the Aleph Base. And so it means that it was the, how do you call it, the Aleph, how do you call it, the best place in Earth so for the Shemen. Alpha, meaning number one, or number Aleph of the places of the Shemen. He brings over there that B'mokim Shashemen Matsui Achochma Matsui. In a place where Shemen is to be found, then Chochma is also Matsui. The Kavona on Shemen Zayis. The Kamaima Takua Alpha L'Shemen. That Takua was the number one place for Shemen. And then he goes on to say, V'chein Yoyev Sholach Acha Isha Chachoma Mita Takua. So the pshat is that he didn't send for any specific Isha that he knew. It says Mashma in the Pasik, but it's a whole story over there where Yoav wanted to cause David HaMelech to be makar of his son Sholem. And whether his motives in that were absolutely pure, whether they weren't, that's another question. But al Chaponim, he wanted that there'd been a rift between David HaMelech and Avshalom. And later, Rahman Itlan, Avshalom rebelled against David. He actually made a war against him. The whole story is long. However, Yoav wanted, there was a rift between David and Avshalom. Yoav wanted to be makar of him back to make the Melech bring back his son into popularity, as you might call it. So in order to do that, he sent to Tekoa to bring Isha Chachoma, because he knew that Tekoa was a place where there was a lot of Shemen. The Gemara says of B'mochim Shemen Matsui Chachma Matsuya. So he didn't send for any particular woman that he knew. He just said they should send a woman from Tekoa, and she would probably be smart. So because she was from the Mochim HaChochma. And then we got it again to David HaMelech and tell David HaMelech the whole business that he And in the end, David Miller woke up that probably Iyar was behind the whole thing, because you could tell from the way she was talking that it was too good. You know? It was too ideal, the whole spiel that she put on in front of Miller. And David Miller understood, but he was so impressed with the whole marshal that she gave him, with the whole wondrous type of play that she made in front of him in order to make him think about his son and think positively about his son. So nonetheless they got, she and Iyar got out of the middle of what they actually wanted, despite the fact that he realized he was being, as it were, prompted by this whole play of this woman. And so in order to get such a woman, Iyar said to Koya, not that he knew anybody, but he just knew that if he got a woman from there, then she would probably be wise, because that was called the Mokim of the Aleph, the chief place in Eretz Israel for Shemen Zayis. And everybody Gemara brings later there an amazing story, which is also brought down in some Maimonic Siddur also, that there was a whole group of people in Eretz Israel that they were from apparently a very rich area, and they sent a big representative looking for Shemen, because they needed Shemen Zayis, and they gave him a huge amount of money. I mean, something like tens of thousands, or 10,000, had it called golden coins or something, to bring back Shemen. So he eventually got to a place called Gush Chalav, after he went to all sorts of places that didn't have that amount of Shemen, or that type of Shemen. And it appears that Gush Chalav is in the same general area as Mashma from Rashi, in his Pirush al Chumash, when you get to Shevet Osher. It's in that same general area, and there was some man there that he went out into the field. He came back from the field, and he measured him out, hundreds and hundreds of these containers of shemen. He took the money from him, and then he said, maybe you want some more, and he added him another something like 8,000 units or something of shemen. And he paid him, well, he didn't actually pay because he didn't have that much money, but he said, okay, we'll leave it on the cheshbon. And he came with him back to the people. And they persuaded him, he and the representative persuaded the people to fork out the extra money, and they ended up getting a huge amount of shemen. I mean, mamish, a tremendous amount, and that was apparently an easy thing for him to produce, because there was so much shemen in that area at that time, so much shemen zayis, and so therefore it was a mokim of chokhmah. That's better what's mavur over there in the Gemara. Ve'af, says the Rebbe. So we see then that shemen zayis and chokhmah are connected one with the other, and where there's a ribui shemen zayis, then chokhmah is to be found in that area. You can rely on the fact that the people will be wise and understanding and clever people, because they're in the mokim of the shemen zayis, which means that the shemen zayis and the chokhmah have a intimate connection, an intimate relation, one with the other. And therefore the Gemara says in another place, if you're very distant from there, the Gemara says that if you eat shemen zayis, then it's machazik all that you've learned, and it even helps your memory to go back and bring back what you've maybe even forgotten. But if you eat just the zaysim without the shemen, if you just eat zaysim without shemen zayis, without them sitting inside shemen zayis, but you just eat the zaysim kavoshaim, then on the contrary they can make you forget your chol, because they're eating from maridas. Mashinkin, the shemen that comes out of the zayis is how do you call it, sweet, almost pleasant for those who like it. I don't go for it, but those who do find it very tasteful, and it's supposed to be a very high, elevated shemen. So therefore we see that there's a deep connection between the etzem shemen zayis and the inyan of chokhmah, even to the point that in Gashmias, the etzem shemen can improve your mind and improve particularly your memory. That's one of the memories for moyach chokhmah, in many drushim, including Derech Mitzvah Secha, and also the Indian of forgetting Cholila is like losing your Chokhmah. So we see that the Zayis has an active effect, either mitzad the Shemen or mitzad the Zayis, and we'll see a little bit later why maybe the eating just of the Zayis bilvad could maybe cause you to impinge on your Chokhmah rather than benefit it. However, that's what we saw, that the Indian of Chokhmah and Shemen Zayis, and therefore with a lot of Shemen Zayis, there's a lot of Chokhmah. And therefore we went on to say, yeah, we saw that the Mayim is also called Chokhmah. Mikol Mokim, Nifleis Milas HaShemen, there's nonetheless a wondrous Mila in the Indian of Shemen, Shubchins Chokhmah Ne'elomo, that's the Indian of Chokhmah Stimua, Shehi Makir HaChokhmah HaGluya, Shenikra B'Shem Mayim. So therefore we see that Shemen is indicatory of the Mokir of Chokhmah, and that's what we've called over here in these Maimonim Chokhmah Stimua. Says the Rebbe, if we go to the Mishnah, we mentioned it the other night already, the Mishnah in Tvil Yom, what is put down over there, a machlekes between the Tanoim beneged to Shemen, which is Tzaf al Gabi Yayin, not Mayim. The Gemara Masechta Shabbos brings down a case for Shemen Tzaf al Gabi Mayim. Over the Mishnah in Tvil Yom, in its original place, that talks about Shemen Shetzaf al Gabi Yayin. Shemen which is sitting on the top, and Shemen, that the teva of Shemen is not to go down and mix with another liquid, but to go up to the top and sit on the top. Yesh machlekes im hu chibo zela, if that's considered that they literally are joined one with the other, even though they're sitting on one the other, or what do we say, that even though they sit one on top of the other, they're two separate entities, and the Shemen doesn't really make any contact with the Yayin. It just sits there, but it doesn't really have any shaykhs to the Yayin. Or we say, no, it does have a shaykhs. And so that's what's an afkim, that if a person who is tomei touched the Shemen, does he make tomei the Yayin, or does he only make tomei the Shemen? Somebody who's a Tvil Yom, does he passel actually the Truma? It's not really even from Tuma, it's even from Psul, or does he only make the Shemen passel but not the Yayin? That's the difference of opinion. That's the Mokeh and the Sherish from whence Chokhmah Gluya is Nimto. The Hine Yayin hu b'chinas Bina. Yayin is well known, is understanding, therefore it has taste, and it affects you, and it livens you up, just like Bina does. And therefore, the Avedis Alavim, the Beis Hamikdash, was the Indian from Shira, of what the Gemara brings, it ain't Shira Ela Beyayin, and therefore it was also connected with the Indian from the Nasochim, or the wine was poured on the Mizbeach, as the one on that was in last week's Pasha Shlach, we had the Indian of the Nasochim.
So why, when someone drinks wine, does he get drunk from?
Well, because it has such a how do you call it, a livening effect on you, that too much of it makes you mavulbul. In other words, like everything that stirs a person up, if it stirs him too much, then he can lose his balance. We brought down once here that the Gemara says in Masechta Brachas that the Peidos in Eretz Yisrael, some of the Peidos in the upper part of the country, in the Galil, were so powerful and so huge and so sweet that if you ate them, you would just get chicken. If you ate the Peidos with its flesh and with the juice in it, that you would get chicken. The tremendous sweetness and power of the Peidos. So everybody agrees that a peri is a thing that livens you up, as they brought down in the Gemara. Or too much, it can be mavalbul the dar. And ever the Indian of the Levim, however, or their Aveda was davki b'shiro, but it was shira al gabi ha yayin. Uksiv, bohem, and it's written in the reference to the Leviim, v'ovod halevi hu. Also from last week's parsha, Parsha Koirach, it's written that v'ovod halevi hu es avedus oyomai, that the Levi, he will do the service of the Mayed. So the Alter Rebbe in Likutei Torah is a maimah that Dibur Hamaska. It starts with that pasuk. It's only a short maimah in Likutei Torah, and over there the Alter Rebbe is mavayeh that who is the madrega of Bina, who indicates Bina. Now, why does who indicate Bina? Because Bina is called, like Gabi the Midas, it's called Almadis Iskasya. In other words, the Midas are called Almadis Galia, because they are what reveal, the person has revealed emotions and revealed connections to those around him through his emotions. And therefore, that's called Almadis Galia. That's called the world of revelation. The Moichin are hidden from the Midas. It's just they are mashpia into the Midas, but because basically they're another world altogether, and they're hidden, so they're called who. In other words, the Midas are called Zeh. Zeh is something you can indicate openly, and who is something which is they call it a hidden entity. They will say who, that. You don't indicate it directly. And therefore, Bina, legabi the Midas, and legabi all the Madregas Shemitachet Lebina is called who. However, Bina is not the emissary Havdalah of the Midas. The emissary Havdalah of the Midas is Chochmah. But nonetheless, Bina is also called, but Chochmah is so mudal that Chochmah is not even called who. It's a unit from Havdalah Odioter. Mashenke Bina is called who, because who at least has some sort of relationship to the Indian, even though it doesn't point to it directly. And therefore, Bina is the marker of all the emotional arousal, but it's not a direct, how do you call it, brother, as you might call it, with the Midas. It's Mudami here. And therefore, it's called who. So the Rebbe is bringing a right from that we see that the Indian of the Leviim, or their Indian is Bina. The Oved HaLevi, that the Avedis of the Levim is who is the Indian of Bina, and Bina is Shai Tavke to the Indian of Yain. Bina is the Indian for Shira, and that's Tavke al Gabe Yain. And therefore the Levim used to lift up their voices in Shira, B'Shas the Korbanos, and the whole thing is well known. They used to play on musical instruments and Nachazov Inyanim. Well, all that type of thing is the Indian of Aisvedas Gedela, but it is connected with the Indian of Bina. V'yadua the Chachmo Bina hein train rain the loimis parshin. That's a Rosh Tevas. It's well known that Chachma and Bina are two neighbors that never separate. Train rain the loimis parshin, which means that there's always a connection between Chachma and Bina. Even though Chachma is higher than Bina, and Bina is another Indian, and Chachma is another Indian, nonetheless, in the Seder of the whole Hamshacha, or the Gilei Alakus, into the Elam as through Ishtaushulus, then Chachma and Bina are always you. Now, Chachma is always mashpia into Bina. Well, that first, that there's always a yichud between the Indian of Chachma and this Indian of Bina, which is the Indian of Yain. So if we're going to say that the Indian of Chochmah Stimor, which is Shemin, for example, that we're going to say that that's Mudal from the Indian of Bina and from Chochmah Gluya altogether, or do we say no, that there is a connection between Chochmah and Bina, and with that connection we have to say that there are connections even in Dinei Tumavata Hara. Or we say no, that Chochmah Stimor is too high, that even though the emes it is a connection, but it's a connection which is mudal and not following, therefore that's the machlekes. Whether I hold that it's enough of a connection to carry the psul of the nagia of the person through the shemen into the yayin, or whether I say no, that the union of Chochmah, particularly Chochmah Stimor, is too mudal, it's too separate from the union of the yayin, and therefore it's not able to be a chibun. It's like they're just like they're sitting separately one from the other, and therefore the psul of the 12 yom doesn't pass through the shem. I mean, that's the difference of the two shittas of the Chachamim and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. So now we discuss that a little bit more in detail. So he said, "V'im kain v'chera ma'hu ha'machleiches im ein chibur zeh lezeh." Is what can there be a place for a difference of opinion if as to whether there are chibur zeh meyacha she'ain train rein deloy mispavshin. They are always connected, and to use the lashon of the Zohar Kodesh, v'zivugayu tadir, and their zivug is continuous. Train rein deloy mispavshin means that they're two neighbors or two friends that never separate. And then there's another lashon which says that their zivug is continuous, because the union of a zivug doesn't always have to be continuous. Therefore, in this particular case, we say that it is. And mamira, they're always, as it were, together, which means v'tomid nimshach min ha'chokhmah ela bina. There always has to be that connection, and that indicates an inter-exchange between them. That chokhmah is always feeding into bina. When you have a nakuda in chokhmah, then eventually that opens itself up and it becomes a union of hasoga and understanding in bina. But the way it is in the nakuda, you don't understand anything. You just have this light and this sort of sudden awareness of the nakuda, of the inya. And then later it enters into bina and it opens up and becomes a union of clear understanding in the mind of the person that he got the nakudas haskola. So there we see that chokhmah always leads into bina. Not only leads into bina, but it's also mamshich. Yeah, it's union into bina, because bina can only deal with what it gets from nakuda of chokhmah. He said, "V'tomid nimshik min ha'chokhmah la bina, k'may nakudas ha'chokhmah." And even more than that, v'yesh says the Rebbe koyach habina b'chokhmah, v'chinas ha'chokhmah b'bina. K'may ma'aseifi yitzira haven b'chokhmah v'chacham b'bina. What's going on? That this is what we call iskalos. This is another inyan. This is what's called beklal in the spheres of tikkun. We talk about iskalos, one sphere from the other. So in chokhmah bina there's also a iskalos. And we say that the koyach habina is kolul in the inyan of chokhmah, and the koyach ha-chokhmah is kolul in the inyan of bina. That's that's the inyan where the Sefer Yetzirah says haven b'chokhmah. You must have a inyan for bina in chokhmah, and chacham b'bina. You must have a inyan of chokhmah in bina. And so what are they? The inyan for haven b'chokhmah. Well, that is the koyach of chokhmah to go down and actually enter and be mashpia to bina. Chokhmah, by its very definition, is a dover hamuda. As we said, koyach ma, it's in from aliyah of a bittul klape maila. The in from chokhmah has no real expression in itself, klape mata. It's a in from bittul, and bittul is in from self-nullification, klape maila, as it were. The in from chokhmah is botel betachlit. So how is it that chokhmah goes down into bina? How does it actually make that passage of being mashpia into bina? So if we say that there's a iskalalus of the koyach habina in chokhmah, and ki'ila is present in chokhmah, a trace of bina, and that makes it able to go down and express into bina, give over its inyonim into bina. And then we see the other way around, like we had earlier in this emshah, we have what we call the nakudas hatamtzis, that after you've been through the whole thing in bina, the barichas inyonim, well, then you come back to a synopsis, and to like a summing up statement in a brevity and an intense light of the whole inyan in one very, very intense light, illuminated nakuda, and that's called nakuda atamtzis. That occurs dafka in bina. And that's how everything goes back into a nakuda inside bina, and that's what's called these colors of chokhmah in bina. In other words, that in bina there's also a queer to go back into a inyan of nakuda bilvai. Yeah, remember that's the two inyanim, and those are called iskalas, a presence of the inyan of bina in chokhmah, and a presence of the inyan from chokhmah in bina. Among others, said the Rebbe, Im Ken Kontois, that everybody agrees that they have tremendous connections. Yeah, there's always train around the Loimir Parashim. And even more than that, it's more than just Stammish, Loimir Parashim, Zivug. What a Zivug means, that both parties contribute something to the union. There's like a union almost which becomes like one, if you say Zivug. And then, even more than that, there's an actual presence of Bina in Chokhmah and vice versa. In Ochevazeh, they seem to be tremendously interconnected and interunified. Is how can we have a machlekes as to whether they are chibuzela, lazeh, achoinyan, says the Rebbe, the shemen hu b'chinas Chokhmah stimoa. But that is the mokir b'chinas Chokhmah ha-geluya. That is the mokir of Chokhmah ha-geluya. When it creates, yeah, Chokhmah stimoa, that's what its name is. Shubchinas stimus ve'elem. In other words, the Chokhmah stimoa is Chokhmah sheba'arik, as we pointed out. It's the union of stimus ve'elem, not Chokhmah da'atzilus, how it is already begolui. V'ainu, gam kishanim shebchinas ha-Chokhmah ha-geluya, mibchinas Chokhmah stimoa, mikol mokim harihem, or harihi, rather, harihi, nisheres b'sti. Also, that even when Chokhmah Geluya derives from Chokhmah Stimoa, nonetheless, there's two madrigas. There's the Chokhmah Geluya, which is derived from Chokhmah Stimoa, and there's Chokhmah Stimoa, which remains in its elam. And that's what we had earlier in the previous moment, that there's a parsa between Chokhmah Stimoa and Chokhmah Geluya. And a parsa is in which is causes like a break between them, like it causes the one to become almost like a makif to the other, and a makif is the in from Havdalah. And therefore, even though Chokhmah Stimoa derives from Chokhmah, and that's what we see the famous view in the pasuk, Chokhmah me'ayin timotei, that Chokhmah becomes like a form of yesh me'ayin, almost from Chokhmah Stimoa. Not completely, but al-Chaponim correctly there. What the Fizek is that it's not so simple, that even after Chokhmah Stimoa is given forth Chokhmah Hageluya, it still remains hidden and sosum, and it remains in its stima. V'hainu, the etzem b'chinas Chokhmah Stimoa, einam is gale, that the very etzem at a b'china of Chokhmah Stimoa, einam is gale. It's not that the Eitzah Chokhmah Stimoa comes down as Mizgala and enters into Chokhmah Geluya. But the Chokhmah Geluya is Nis'ava Memeno, but not in a even from Kilo, and that's what we just quoted. Chokhmah Me'ayin Timotei, it Kilo comes from Chokhmah Stimoa, almost like Ayin of not being aware of the Mokir from whence it came. Almost like in from Yeshmi, Ayin. It's only it's only the Dina from Chokhmah Geluya, Mis'aveh. What's that? No, where's that come from? No? Okay, maybe you can try your luck. It doesn't help to shout at them. I don't know if it's going to even help to talk to them. But the same are not way to watch. What's funny? What's
it got louder.
They start screaming at him.
So I mean, if you laugh at it, that's already in the sin is mocking to the whole thing. It's from that type of attitude that the whole thing is mistosel. The Rivi is toseless. It's I come down here to break my head when I'm other people would consider me a sick man. If they knew exactly how I was, I would have been probably paskin months ago that I shouldn't be working anymore. And I come down there to give away my classes. It's not a joke what that goes on. It's not a joke.
They're having like Iranians in the rooms.
Yeah. Well, maybe they can close the door.
I told them to keep the doors closed.
Okay, so the Rebbe says it's only that the union from the Chokhmah is Geluya is misave from the Chokhmah Timor. And that was in Nisave, like we pointed out, that's Bo'ivin Shal Yeshmi, Yeshmi Ayin. But not that the Chochmas Timor in any way enters or reveals itself Bo'ivin Goloi to Chochma Geluya. Ukemoi, Koyach HaMaskil Sheba Odom. Well, it's well known, brought down by Riches in Drushik says, that the Moshel in the Nefesh of the Odom, the Moshel in the Nefesh of the Odom for Chochmas Timor is Koyach HaMaskil. But the Koyach HaMaskil is like the mind. That's the point from whence it's like the Koyach in the Nefesh, which produces you the Protei HaChochma. Not that it is any specific entity of Chochma in its own right. And that's called Chochma Shtimor Shebenefesh, in other words, Koyach HaMaskil, the Koyach which produces you, say. That was the Rebbe, the Koyach HaMaskil Sheba'odom, הנה כשנויפו לו איזה אסכולה חדושה ממקור הסייכו, על אין זה שהכוח המשכיל גופה נסגלה, רק מה שנמצא ממנו אוהר סייכו גלוי. It's not a pshat when you all of a sudden get a gilui of the nekudas askola from your koyach hamaskil. It's not that the koyach hamaskil came down and was misgalat to you. The koyach hamaskil remains in its helem, but it's, as it were, it produces you, it pops you out, to use an expression. It sort of pops you out, the nekuda, but it itself remains behelem. And that's what we say, that the koyach hamaskil is not any given cycle. It's what we call a koyach yuli, like a potential separate type of entity which can produce you the details, but it itself is not the details at all, but it just has the ability to be mitzamtzum itself, or upon to produce you the detail. And therefore, says the Rebbe, are the same with Chochmas Timor, legabi Chochma Gluya Lamaila, so it is in the Nefesh that the Koyach HaMaskil is a Koyach HaYuli, and it's not that it's misgala to you, but it just produces you anakuda. Ein zeh shakoyach HaMaskil gufa, its very self nisgala, rak mashenimtza mimenu. Something comes out of it, but derech metzia, and that's the lashon of the pasuk. Achokma me'ayin timotei. וכשנמצא ממנו ער שכל גלוי. אבל is it gufish or koyach hamaskil who be, and the very essence of the koyach hamaskil remains in its head. Like we see that what we call the actual mind, that remains mudo fundamentally. It just produces him whenever it's the Ashkocha Pratius and La'is HaTzoyra that he should have a new Askola, so then it produces it by way of Timotei. And therefore it's sometimes a dogma is brought to that from the union of a Metzia. It's like something that you find not knowing exactly where it came from. When you get a new idea, you just know that you got the idea. You don't really know how it was given to you or where it came from. And therefore we say, Yogata ma tzoso. If you really work very, very hard, then you literally find. You get a new gilui from the Makia of Chochmah. So that was the Rebbe does the union of the Moshel in Nefesh of the Koyach HaMaskil. He said it's not like once you've already got revealed Chochmah leading into revealed Bina. He said Shekufi shall Nekudas Askola bo b'chinas Bina. That's what's called in the Zohar Kodesh Nekuda Behei Chola. Not Hei Chalei, but Nekuda Behei Chola is the lesson. In the Zohar, it's called literally the dot or the Nekuda inside the big hole, inside the Heichal. In other words, what actually happens in the two koyachas, Chochmah and Bina, that the Nekuda, the Chochmah actually enters into Bina. It's not that Bina just waits that somehow or another you throw it down ideas, but the actual Nekuda of Chochmah enters the realm of Bina, and then there's a power in Bina to open it out. And therefore it's called at the beginning, when it enters Bina, it's like a little dot or a little, sort of a lone entity inside a big hall. And so therefore there's a very special koyach in Bina. That's the great bracha, koyach, what the Eivster placed in Bina, that's able to take that Nakuda and open it out. But inside the Hegel is really the Nakuda. You got that Nakuda from Koyach HaMaskil, it doesn't work that way. It's not that the Koyach HaMaskil comes down into your, no, the Koyach HaMaskil remains completely hidden, and it just produces you, Yesh Mino Ayin, a new idea. Over here, the Indian of Chochmah actually is mashpia and gives what it has, and what it has, its own Nakuda, the same Nakuda goes over into Bina.
So that dot of Chochmah that comes into Bina, part of Paninius Chochmah?
Huh?
Is it Paninius Chochmah or Chitzinius Chochmah?
No, that's only Chitzinius Chochmah. That's only what we call the Nehisha b'Chochmah. It's called Neitzach Heid Yisayt b'Chochmah.
Is it like a seed that Chochmah creates this? Chochmah creates the Nakuda? The Koyach of Chochmah creates
No, Chochmah doesn't create it at all. Chochmah gets it from the Koyach HaMaskil. It comes entirely from the Koyach HaMaskil.
So then what is
the whole inyan from Chochmah is Nakuda. That's how it works. It's not that it creates a Nakuda. That's how it functions. Its whole inyan is only to deal with things in the form of a Nakuda. And therefore it's an intense iskashus in the thing without detail. In other words, that Nakuda, that comes from the Koyach HaMaskil, bli shum gilif in the Koyach HaMaskil. That the whole inyan of Chochmah is its whole koyach, its whole binyan as a koyach and nefesh, is what's called in Lashon Kodesh nakudati. It works only in nakudas. Understand? And therefore, it's not that Chochmah creates the nakuda; it's just a kli to be mekabel that nakuda, and its whole inyan is like the beginning, which is a nakuda. But it's a very profound bittul, because alidei that it's bottled, ad kedei kach it can get the new nakuda, and it gets the inyan of the whole shleimus of the emes inside that nakuda. Now when it gets down into Bina, then it's a whole big inyan to open it up and to bring it into all the details. We'll have kol adam zeichel hazeh. Not everybody is zeichel to open up all the nakuda into its intense details and to the full extent. A lot of people get stuck in the middle, or they don't work further, or who knows what could be, all sorts of inyonim that prevent the development in Bina to its shleimus. But in Chochmah you got the whole thing. In Chochmah you got the whole inyan. You have a shleimus hagi godlo. On the contrary, that's really the emes shebe'emes. That's the whole thing. Not lacking anything. The whole shleimus. And the mashal for it is, if you take the Iyar HaShemesh and you use one of these magnifying glasses, and you can take all the rays in the shemesh or whatever it is, and you can make them all appear in one intense point, and they can even consume something. They can burn it. Have you ever seen that happen? That means that all the inyonim, all the details are all centered into one intense nakuda. But the truth of the matter is, that's only a lower inyan in nakuda. There's even higher inyan than that. The nakuda's also got at least 2 madreis. That's in what we can picture to our minds, the inyan of the nakuda. Good. Okay, so now we go further. So the Rebbe says, Aval, gufi kamoy Chochmah Bina, that's the inyan of nakuda b'hei cholei, that the nakuda actually enters the hegel of Bina. So then you might say, well, now what? The nakuda's gone down into the hegel. What happens now? So there's like we said, a very special koyach is produced in the inyan of Bina, but that's a koyach in nefesh which is not there in Chochmah, a power to undertake the opening up of the inyan. And that's one of the reasons why we use the expression nakuda b'hei chola. We could just say nakuda b'teik Bina. Why do we say nakuda b'hei chola? Because a hegel is a makiv. That means to say that in Bina there's a very powerful nasinus koyach from very high in the nefesh, which makes it able to produce what you might call the river from the mayon. The dot is like a mayon, but to produce a huge river, well, that's a new koyach on its own. And that's what the Gemara in Masechta Nedarim and in Bava Metzia with the Marameis, with the expression that nahar mikipei mivrach, that literally the nahar draws a special koyach from its own self to spread into big water. It's only touched off by the nakuda. But deep inside the river there's a power to produce its own greatness. Therefore we say Nakuda Behei Chola, because inside Bina there's like a makif, tremendous makif, and a sinus curve of the etzem, and that was to open up the inyan of the Nakuda Sabina. So therefore said the Rebbe Avori said B'chachma Mikoyach HaMaskil Einu Kein. It's not that way. Shakoyach HaMaskil Nisha LeOilam BeHelem, the power to produce seichels, what we can call that generally the mind, well, that always remains in Behelem. It doesn't give anything over. It just produces yesh min ayin, something. Always a b'chachma mikoyach hamaskil. I'm sorry. Moikein is a bepchinas chachma stimua im hiyesh chachma hagluya nimshach umisave mimenu, even though the inyan of chachma gluya is nimshach, and it literally comes into being from chachma stimua. Mikol moikein bepchinas chachma stimua nisha bepchinas stimus helem ukemoishin is burly. Like we also had earlier when we were talking about the inyan of chachma stimua in the previous maimah. Because we said that even the Hamshocha from Chokma Stimua in the Chokma Gluya is Derech HaParsa. We had the whole Indian of Kruma, Agab Moicha, with the whole Indian, through the Indian of Aparsa. Omar said the Rebbe now on that basis, that on the one hand we see that there's a tremendous kesher between Chokma and Bina, yet on the other hand, we see that something in Chokma that he comes from very high koyach, where it's a very, very elevated koyach, which is koyach hamaskil, the inyan from Chokma Stimua. So the question is, do I look at Chokma mitzad its shoyres, or do I look at Chokma just the way it is, but begiluyay? So therefore he said that's the machlekes. Ubezeh hu hamachlekes im heim chibur zela. He said l'das hachachamim. He said, according to the Chachamim, we have a chibur. They hold that it's not a chibur. Therefore, the Tefel Yom touches the shemen, he doesn't touch the wine. He doesn't puzzle the wine, because they hold miyacha shenisha b'chinas stima. In other words, that they hold that chachma, which chachma stima, which is shemen. We pointed out that chachma stima and shemen are the same inyan. Is chachma stima is a mocker for chachma, and chachma touches into bina. But it's only a mocker rochek. It's not a mocker ha-korev. And if he touches shemen, it's like as if he's touching something which is mudal, sof-kol saf, from the wine. Eventually it gets into a kesher with the wine, but it's mudal. Ula Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri have a chibur. Why? The yesh makeir chachma al kol ponim. Chachma stimua is at least the makir of chachma, and chachma is connected with bina. Chachma goes into bina. So he holds there's really not a big difference whether it's a close makir or another makir. It is a makir, so therefore can be considered a kesher. They can be considered as having a chibur, one with the chachamim. They look at the etzem inyan of chachma stimua, which always remains in a form of helem, even when it's mashpia into chachma gluya, which eventually reaches bina. And therefore it depends what way you look at it. Whether you say, no, that's a dover ha-nivdal, and since it's nivdal, it doesn't really have any shaychus with the inyan of bina, or you say, no, the so it does, because it does produce chachma ha-gluya, and chachma gluya enters into bina. But maybe that's the machlek. So here we see a wondrous thing, of how Chassidus is mavbir a machlekes in nigla the Torah, when I get to the inyan of chibur between yain and shemen. And as we say, there's also a similar inyan when I get to yain to shemen umayim, or that's when I get to hoitzah, hilchas hoitzah, v'shabbos. It's not so much benegir to the inyan of yayin. However, there are places in Tzidus Domani where they even go into that inyan, but then it's already two madregas in Chokma itself. Because Mayim is also Chokma, but it's Chokma Gluya. So do we say that Chokma Stimua has got a shaychus with a Chokma Gluya, or whether we don't? When it's a chibur rather. Because on the one hand it does have, because it comes from it. On the other hand, it's moved out because of the parsa. So it's a similar type of concept. Venimta, the shemen hu b'chinas chokma stimo. That's what it works out. That shemen is atzmiyas moker ha-chokma, not chokma geluya. So the Rebbe says, "V'hinei azayis shashemen nimshach mimenu hu more." It's an interesting fact that the zayis, that the shemen comes from it, is bitter. A shemen zayis. It's only people who've got a chushim sour things a little bit like to eat zaisim. It's a sort of a sour, almost bitter sour type thing to eat. K'maimer Azal al posik v'alei zayis toraf b'fiho. This is when the dove came back to Noach in the ark. He sent it out one time and didn't come back, and he sent it out again, and it came back with a little twig of a zayis tree in its mouth. Alei zayis b'fiho. Had he caught a little twig with the leaves of a tree of zayis in its mouth. And it said to Noach, what did it mean by saying that? It said, Sha'omra ha'yoina. The dove said to Noach, Yum azanoisai marudim kazayis u'masurim biyad HaKodesh Baruch Hu v'lo yeh masukim b'bosav v'dam. Rashi brings it over there. The Yoina said to Noach that I've already got the ability to look after myself. That there's enough already of Gilu al Pnei Adoma that I don't need you anymore now. I don't need you to come back into the ark. And therefore the Yoina went off and she never came back anymore. She needed the ark in order to get her food. He fed everything, and he had tons and tons of food now that he was able to feed them. Therefore she brought back an alei zayis, says Rashi. What did she want to say with that? She said, now that the world has dried a little bit, I can look after myself. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will provide for me. I'll be bitter, it'll be hard, and it won't be the nice type of food that you give me, but it will be in the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it won't be in the hands of Bosavar Dom. Well, with that, what she meant to say was, it's better to eat your own and do things your own way rather than be totally impossible. Totally impossible. But even though she was only a Yoina, she wasn't mamish a human, but nonetheless, and therefore she brought the alei zayis to say to him, it's better that my panos be more, right? So that was it. The Rebbe, from that we see that the inan of a zayis is dafka inan from more. Therefore she brought the zayis to indicate to him that whole principle that from now on she was becoming independent. Ayah to inan from maridas, but it's better that. That's what she told him.
So why did the birds suspect Noach? She the birds do you want
Noach?
Yeah, the bird accused Noach of other stuff too. Accused.
Nah, that's another mouse. That's the Oirev. That's not the Yoina. He sent two birds. First of all, he sent the Oirev, and the Oirev wouldn't go away with Cloud. The Oirev would go and take a look, because the Oirev just kept going around the ark, because it's very strange to Rashi that it suspected Noach of wanting to interfere with its Ben Zu. But that was a Oirev. Then later he sent another bird, which was called a Yoina. And the Yoina did go out. The Yoina went out and did the Shlicha very faithfully, and she came back twice. The second time she came back, then she had the alei zayis before. From that we see that the zayis is a inan from Marilus. The zayis is a bitter thing. The noach tchilos on be seifon davker. Now here we meet up with a fascinating principle. Noach tchilos on be seifon, which you've heard that expression before, and that's a statement in the Sefer Yetzirah. It's one of the brief, very terse statements that occur in the Sefer Yetzirah, and it says that the beginning is literally hammered into or jammed into the Seif, Davka. So there's two ways that you can understand that. You can understand it that the Tchila is, how do you call it, no, it's in the sea, meaning that the highest Madrega, which is called Tchila, and Tchila to a certain extent is even higher than Rashis. It doesn't mean like just the beginning, it means like the Shurish at the beginning, to be more correct. Well, that's no, it's Seifon. Well, that's jammed into the so. In other words, when you get all the way down to the bottom, then you really find the Tchila all the way down at the bottom. And that's a thing doesn't make any sense of the logic, why it should be that way. And therefore the Sefer just says Nautz. It's like a Kodesh Baruch Hu jams it in that way, Shaloi Lafiyah Seid. And there's a very famous beer in the Alter Rebbe, in this Indian, and it's a famous mimer. It's brought down in the Siddur. After Aleinu Shabeach in the Alter Rebbe, there's a famous mimer which is called the Mimer Achar Aleinu. I say that's what the Rebbeinu called the Mimer Achar Aleinu. And do it. The Alter Rebbe is marig in this whole in of Noach Tchilasim B'Seifan. And he says over there all sorts of wonders in Yonim, but I ain't kind of more myself. Yeah, Lahari V'Zeh, if anybody would be interested, they can take a look. Ochapanim says, what the Alter Rebbe learns over there, most of the Pirush, is the one we just said. That you take the highest point, you take the lowest point, you'll find the highest point in the lowest point. However, there's certain Meforshim over there in the Sefer Yetzirah, certain of the great early period Meforshim, and they learn another way. And they say that no, it's Tchila Son B'Seifon means that if you take the Tchila of any beginning, yeah, then it's the Sof of the higher Madrega. In other words, the one before it. So therefore we say, no, it's Tchila Son B'Seifon, that the beginning of the new process is really hidden in the end of the higher process. And that's an opposite pshat. It's not the pshat we just love, but it's another one altogether. So it's two different ways. And they say, no, it's Tchilas B'Seifon refers to all sorts of inyanim that start as a beginning, but really their whole, how do you call it, that beginning is really to be found in the end of the previous Madrega. As they learn and say, I think over there, the Raavad and some of the other great Meforshim, that's the way they learn. And the Alter Rebbe came along with that whole beer that we just said, the first beer, that's a Chiddush. That's a Chiddush beer, because Rav Meforshim don't learn that way. So right now, in this piece here, in the Maimah, we're learning according to the second beer. We're going to learn, and then we have to be careful not to confuse it with what is in many places it's the beer, and here it's slightly different nuance. So then we have to watch our step just a little bit on how we learn it here. So he says, the dua the noats nauts. I'm sorry, tchilason beseifar. So he says like this: the beginning of Chokmah, she tchilas v'reishit. The beginning of Chokmah is the beginning of all the Esespheres. Akamesh because of reishit Chokmah. Well, that is nauts. That's literally banged in and to be found. Besof shenim shut me'azayis shehu more. Yeah, Chokmah comes out of the zayis, and the zayis is bitter, and Chokmah is oil. You know, it's how do you call it? Taste, good taste. So the Rebbe says it comes out of the zayas, which is moral. So sweetness or gili of the Chokmah is like light, and mora is like, as it were, darkness. So you got the idea of something which is bitter, is like heipachalichtikai. So therefore he said, v'yesh l'farish zeh b'beis ha'fanim. There's two ways that we're going to be able to mefarish this. So one of them is b'derech, what we just said, no tchilas b'seifon. The other one is another beer altogether. It doesn't have to do with no tchilas b'seifon. We'll see about that. We won't come to that this evening, but in Mirtzim Behemshalanim we'll come to it. So everybody is already sighing with relief that we're not going to body with the second Pirush this evening. And I notice that all sorts of eyes keep peering beyond my shoulder at the clock. So in the old days when we had the clock over there, then it was me who used to peer at the clock. And you guys weren't able to, except for certain of you. It was so tempting. But now that the clock is behind me and it's right here, close on the wall, and we keep these eyes that are going, as I might say, ad mosai. So the shadow would be, that if we could get that ad mosai into Mashiach. At least he's laughing. At least he's catching on to the sarcasm. At least he's getting a little bit of Yeah, the Marilla said. Hey, Joel, don't worry. Yes, Mefarish said, we can be Mefarish, or this in it, that the shemen, which is sweet, comes out of the mora, the bitterness of the zayas. However, we just learned before the chokmah really comes like in a way of ayin. It's misaver from chokmah stimoy, and I even know like almost like ayin. Yitochein, ki hu nimshuk mibchinas choshech sisrei the bchinas kesa I loa. That we can say that really chokmah iloa, chokmah gluya is nimshach from chokmah stimoy. Or chokmah stimoy is like we saw chokmah shebekesa. It's close to in kesa. So what we could say is that kesa is the union of darkness, and therefore it can be called moreh. Mashik in the union of chokmah being the union of the sweetness of the shemen, that's light, that's galui. Where do I see that? Pasik in Tehillim Yoshes Choshech Sisrei, that he placed darkness, his hidden place is darkness. That's the union of Kesa Elo. Now why is Kesa called dark? Because we don't really massacre it, we can't really understand it, we don't really have an appreciation of it, and therefore it's called dark. Like the famous statement of our sages, Kibriose Shel Oilom, Bereisha Hashoicho Vahadana, at the beginning darkness and afterwards light. What is it this whole thing of calling Kesa? What's the whole thing of calling it dark? I mean, Kesa should be the emes of light. Why would we call it dark? Oh, he said, Kibrios at the beginning. What is at the beginning? We have the big highlights before we got down through the Tzimtzumim to this world. Well, that's called Chasheicha. And the union of the latter stages which bring about our world, that's called Nohera. So we see that the light above this world is so high that it's called dark. In other words, something which is very high is called dark. Now, what's that statement? Kibriyosha Shalal and Bereisha Chatei V'Hoda Nahira. We're all familiar. There's a Gemara Masechta Shabbos where it's written that Rabbi Yehuda, not Rabbi Yehuda, I think it was Rabbi Yehuda, that once he was in a humorous frame of mind, and he said that anybody that'll ask me any of the what they call over there, Kavshid or Elon, sort of, anybody ask me strange kashis, how the world functions, I'll answer them. I'll give them what is the view of the dollar. So somebody asked him, why is it when you take the sheep and the goats, you take them, these flocks, and you got sheep and you got goats, they've got to go through a narrow place, right? The sheep always stand aside and they let the goats go first and then they follow. So people say normally, that's good. The sheep tend to be a little bit sort of, how do you call it, sheepish. They're a little bit too gentle, and the goats are a bit more good, therefore they get in first. So he said no. He said the goats have got a dark tail on them, or they've got a dark patches in them, the goats. He said they represent the union of Choisha. And the sheep are white, so they represent the union of Choisha. So he said the reason that happens is because that's the way the world began, said Rabbi Yehuda. So he said, I'll explain to you whatever you like to ask me. And he said, that's Kibrios Shalelam. At the beginning there was darkness, and then afterwards there was light. And that's what's written with Choshech al Pnei Tehim. First of all there was Choshech, and then afterwards there came the union of light. And so he said, exactly like that. That's what happens with these animals. So we see from that at the beginning there's darkness and afterwards there's light. So we see that Keser Elyon, Sha'achokma, Shenikra Uya, Nimshach, Keser Elyon, it comes out from Keser Elyon, Shenikra Choshech Elyon. Well, that's called the union of the high Choshech. Okamaima, Keser Elyon, Afogav the Yu, Tach, even though it's a very delicate and high light, Uchamu, nonetheless, it's called darkness. Ucham means brown or dark. It's called dark. Now the whole beer, that's a famous statement in the Tikkun Isaiah. And the whole beer, not over any kind of mocking at this moment to go into the whole beer. Suffice it to say that we see that Keser is called dark. It's called blackness or dark. So there's certain biurim in that. But the beer that we're interested in, that's something which is very high, is called darkness legavi the makablim. Hare shehu b'chinas choshek legavi lamaila. Well, here the Rebbe sort of gives away the secret. He said it's really called choshek legavi lamaila. Where there's choshek legavi as. And here he throws in a word that is choshek legavi maila. So what does that mean? That legavi atzmas ain't safe, even keser is nothing. So therefore, even keser is called dark, legavi atzmas ain't safe. But since it's called dark, then legavi as for sure it's dark. If it's dark, legavi atzmas, legavi yund, it's also, well, I don't know if that's for sure, but anyway, as it is, then it's also dark. Over Pardes, he said in the Pardes it's brought down, Sha'keser b'chinas levush harishoina shemalim al hoya. In other words, that keser is, albeit they ain't safe, but it's already a keser to a series of esesphira. Therefore, he says that albeit it's a very high oil, but it's a levush, which is mala ain't safe. That's one when the Pardes use the word ain't safe, he means the legamri l'mayla mikol. And so therefore, the inyan of kes is called a levush. Like we saw earlier in the Maimah, a crown which fits on a king's head comes down onto his head. It has a certain kesher and a certain midah, as you might call it, to his head. Therefore, the inyan from kesher, legamri l'mayla, is called a levush. It's called a levush. Therefore, despite the tremendous elevation and edelkeit of keser, but it's called a inyan of levush to the Ein Sof. And remember, if he balances a levush, and it causes a darkness between us and the Ein Sof. Therefore, it's called the inyan of darkness. So, inyan no tchiloson b'seifon. Shatchila hu Hashem b'chinas chokma ha'ne'loma no tzu b'chinas keser Iyar or keser elyain. The malchus the ach nase keser la'atzilas. Lochen nikra chokma Iyar b'shem tzvi. Therefore, adikot, I'm sorry, lochen no chokma Iyar. Lochen nikra ha-keser elyain, slicha. Ha-keser elyain b'shem so. וגם יש להם על פי מה שקוראים בגויס להביע דבר ראיסי, the zayis הוא בחינת יסוד. The zayis indicates the inyan from yesod. So yesod is also the end. ובחינת shemen atoiv הוא בחינת chokmas timor, ונית בחינת יסוד the atik. וזהו שנוץ בסייפון, but in this case it's the inyan of yesod. In other words, yesod of keser, not just keser stam, or even yesod in keser. We were calling keser beklal, but we were saying that keser was like a word darkness. And therefore, in that respect, it's like a soul. So, no tchilos on b'seifon. The chokma Iyar is literally jammed into keser, which is chokma stimor, and that's called not the tchila of chokma, which is the tchila of all the seder ishtausas, but that is jammed into the end, which is keser elyon, which is called darkness. Or, he said, you can say it's jammed into the end because it's the madrega of yesod in keser, and yesod is always the end. Yesod is the one before malchus, which means the end of the whole seder of the spirit. Therefore, no tchilos on chokma is naus in yesod sheba keser. You don't need to call it keser according to that so much in from darkness. It's anyway in the last madrega in keser. So therefore, no tchilos on b'seifon. Or if we'll say that the clothes inyan from keser is called darkness, then that's the inyan of kiloso. It's like the inyan of a dora shlili, and no tchilos on b'seifon. Edifar, that's the other pirush in no tchilos on b'seifon, not the Alter Rebbe's pirush. No, that means that the chokma, which is the beginning of everything, that really finds its shores in the inyan of sof, or darkness, or shlila, which we call sof, or we call it sof al shem. So that's the inyan of no tchilos on b'seifon. It follows that the inyan of the zayis is indicative of this idea of mariras, and mariras is the idea of darkness, and that's the inyan of sof. That's like the inyan of sof. Therefore, chokma comes darky from the bitterness of the zayis, but even not chilosim ber. All right, good. We'll hold there, and we'll continue further.